everybody gets $2,000.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bogus Hangout. We're discussing COVID and the impact on employment. Have you guys introduce yourselves, Doc?
Doc Sheldon here of Intrinsic Value SEO.
Terry?
Terry Van Horn. I don't know what I'm doing.
And I'm Bill Slosky of SEO by the Sea and Go Fish Digital, where I'm the Director of SEO Research. Just a quick sidetrack. Any of you guys see that huge correlation study that came out last week? 11.8 million documents in results. It said things like there's no correlation between high rankings and schema.
Oh,
Is that going to cause anybody? Is the gold standard for correlation studies now lame things that you can ignore if you know something about SEO?
Did this come out of Moz by any chance?
No.
Okay. I had not seen that. What, do you recall what the source was?
It was Backlinko.
Oh, fuck. One step up from the Moz. Okay.
Oh, you're generous today.
Well, that shows you how much I think of the Moz, too, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm not convinced that you need 11.8 million results to do a lame correlation study.
I don't think you should bother doing a correlation study at all. Like, what does it prove? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's a waste of time.
There's a very slight correlation between the shortness of a URL and ranking.
The problem with so-called studies like that is they're misleading as hell, and there's an awful lot of people out there that are gullible, don't understand enough, or too damn lazy to do their own thinking. That'll buy into it, and they'll rush out there and scratch all the schema on their site because it doesn't have any impact on ranking. Or,
right.
I find that kind of shit irresponsible.
There are business owners who are trying to do their own SEO.
Yep.
And when you give them a study like that from somebody who lots of people are saying is an expert, they might be inclined to believe them and backtrack on some of the positive things they're doing to adopt some of the things that the correlation study says to do.
Well, there's also but Boz's study said there's no correlation between titles and ranking. Well, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
And the Moz studies were also saying stuff like there's a definite correlation between Facebook likes and rankings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Something it can't even index.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Matt Cutts told them that about a month later. He said, you really
That's
want
the first.
Facebook.
What's the first thing you should do when you're assessing a website? Well, probably look at the robot's text to see if you could even index the thing. That would be the first place someone who knew what they were doing would look at.
And the problem is these studies are going to people who aren't professional SEOs, who are amateur SEOs, who are trying to do some of their own SEO.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or the one I love is the clients who send that kind of stuff to you.
Oh, yeah. I saw this on a blog.
It stops pretty quick when you tell them, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to charge you to read it, but I'll never implement none of this stuff. You're just paying me to read stuff for no reason whatsoever.
And I read very slowly.
Yeah.
I have had clients ask me to do things based on what they saw on their competitors' sites, such as categorizing URLs in XML sitemaps in the hope that that'll get them to rank higher for those categories.
I don't mind when a client says, hey, I got a question.
That's not how XML sitemaps work, and Google doesn't really care how they're organized.
I alphabetize mine. I put them in alphabetical order so all the groups come together. Like all the blog posts are in one place, so I can look and see what's there. It makes it easy to find what I'm looking for.
So there's some actual real strategies to organizing URLs and XML sitemaps, like putting all the new stuff together, or putting all the stuff in the same categories or topics in the same section. So if there's a failure of that particular XML sitemap, you can identify quickly what the problem is.
Yeah, I think there's also an advantage to filling in the last mod with the date that you published it. I believe there's, good reason to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Google says they don't pay any attention to that for ranking purposes, but it's definitely
the first thing it's probably the first thing a crawler looks at when it asks for a page, because it tells it if it's changed since it crawled.
Yeah, exactly.
However, I don't know if they take it literally, because lots of people, when they said that they used that, started making it so it changed the last mod date to today's date every time they
which is probably
site.
why they came out and said, we don't look at that. We don't care about that, just to try to stop some of that.
Oh, they definitely use last mod because it's useful in crawling. Like, there's no sense in going to a site if you go and ask for the last mod and it was it hasn't been changed since you last indexed it.
I think it was just maybe 3 or 4 months ago. You might remember, Bill, that Google said, and I don't remember if it was John or Gary or who, but somebody said the last mod is not anything that we look at. We don't base our crawl decisions on that. And I don't
remember it being that recent, but I do remember hearing that repeatedly.
Yeah, I don't remember it being that recent either, but I do remember hearing it.
They've said it for a long time, but they just reiterated it here because some people were saying, "Oh, you can do this and fool the search engine." Yeah, put this on your blog, buddy.
Well, first of all, it's not most people can't even change that. You have to have access to the server.
You got to code it. Yeah,
you got to pretty well own the server to be able to change that.
It's sort of like people removing dates from blog posts or making them automatically updated to the most recent date, the present date.
Yeah.
Because they think that tells Google that it's evergreen content.
Yeah.
Ooh,
but they don't realize it tells everyone else, why should I read this? It may be 10 years old.
That pisses me off when I find a blog post that the topic is interesting and there's no date on it. Was this something you wrote before or after Florida, you knothead?
Right. There's so many things that are contingent. Or when you're looking up programming stuff. Well,
how to optimize Windows.
The date is important.
Not today. Yeah.
I'm amazed at how many blog posts don't have a date on them.
Yeah, especially since the default is to have it there.
Yeah. That means they went to some trouble to remove it.
If there's no date in the blog post, I'll search for another blog post. I don't know.
Yeah, you figure they're trying to hide something or just don't like that activity.
Figure there's something going on that I'm not aware of. There's a reason why they took the date off.
Yeah.
I don't mind when a client calls me and says, "Hey, I saw one of my competitors is doing this, or I saw a blog post that says this. Is there any validity to that?"
Yeah.
If they come with a legitimate question, that's cool.
Yeah, questions are fine.
But when they say, "I want you to do this because I saw that my competitor is doing," no, your competitor is not your competitor in the first place. They happen to sell a product that competes with you. They sell 1,800 other products too, and they're doing it site wide. That doesn't mean that it's good for your niche. Or they got the head up their butt. They're gonna get penalized.
I always give them a real life example. I worked for a company that they chopped the price and did extra work on a product just because at the once a year, the highest sellers got taken on a special trip, you could say, right? Like a cruise or something like that.
Right.
So they wanted to be one of, so you're following that guy. You're using that, not to say there's anything wrong with that because it was good product as well. But if you were looking at why is he trying so hard to sell that, well, not always the best thing.
But I want to win the cruise.
And I always tell them, well, you don't get to first by following other people.
That's it. You want to lead, not follow.
That's right. You want to be the leader, not the follower, because you'll always be behind them.
Yeah.
Hello, Cat.
This is Tidy Two-Ton.
So if your business strategy is to follow the leader all the time because they can't be making mistakes, you'll never be the leader.
Yep.
Because you're making the mistake of following them.
I recall a situation probably a couple of years ago where these two companies were in fierce competition, and they were basically the only two doing it. And the one guy, one of them had an SEO and was starting to dress his site up a little bit. The other guy saw that, so he hired an SEO too. So the first guy started having his SEO do some stupid shit because the other guy kept following everything that they did. He did. So he says, "Okay, do some stupid shit." And sure as hell, the guy followed him and got. This is back when they were still de-indexing. It was funny as hell, really. The guy was able to take a bath on some business for a while in order to let his competitor trash himself, and it worked. Hardly the way to do business, but it was amusing.
Oh, that's funny.
If you're going to follow somebody else, you better be willing to take a bath.
To follow anybody else.
Well,
I mean,
not,
people could do the exact same
Terry.
things as me and not get the same results.
An awful lot of people do, Terry.
Yeah, like you can't do what somebody else and expect to get the same results because you don't know everything that they're doing.
No, you don't know everything.
Well, not only that, but even, and you and I have talked about this before. You can go do a basketball attire business in Detroit today, and then go do a basketball attire business in Chicago tomorrow, and the same thing won't necessarily work. Or do it again in Detroit, but a year from now, the same thing won't necessarily work. Or try it on a football attire shop, and it won't necessarily work. There's always some variables.
But we did see Craigslist successfully move from focusing on San Francisco to other towns using what appeared to be the very same business model, or different, but very similar in other places, and expanding upon it, improving it, and continuing to expand until it was nationwide.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. It's
So
just not a...
Yeah, that's interesting because I lived in San Francisco Bay Area when Craigslist started.
Yeah.
And it was so cool because it was real people posting real whatevers, And then as it expanded, it didn't have that sense of connection that the original Craigslist had. So Craigslist expanded, yes, but at the same time, their trustworthiness diminished.
Well, I think one of the things that Craig himself liked about Craigslist was a connection to the people, which is why he never moved on from doing customer service. As CEO of the company, he was doing customer service because he liked talking to people.
Yeah, well, there's not much for the CEO to do there except count money.
That's true.
Yeah,
And plenty of that.
It's not like they're redesigning every other day. That thing's got the same design as it had in the 90s. That's what
Right.
kills
Yeah,
me.
it does.
It ain't broke.
Nope.
And it's so easy for them to expand. Like there's Toronto, and then there's another bigger area that was created as the city grew in the last 20 years. It's called the GTA. So they have the exact same categories, and they just started calling it GTA. So now, yeah, if you're buying ads there, you have to buy them in 3 spots if you're in Toronto.
Really?
Oh, it's crazy because they've broken it down to the GTA consists of about probably 6 or 7 what we used to call cities that are like 100,000 or so, like that.
The area around Washington, D.C. was like that too.
Yeah. Or Chicagoland. In Chicago, there's Chicago and then Chicagoland, which is the area around it as well. There's the same thing around Houston, I believe, or Dallas.
Dallas and Houston both.
Fort Worth?
Yeah, they both have bigger metropolitan area.
Yeah, that's been around for long before the internet. Having a GMA set up, but it is kind of smart what Craigslist did. That the way that they broke it out and let them absorb, basically annex all these outlying towns without having to rework everything. I mean, it didn't require any massive.
All it took was for people to go and put in an ad for free.
Now, have any of you used Nextdoor?
Yeah,
I'm on Nextdoor, but I only read it to get like local, really neighborhoody things going on, and there are ads there, but I never look at them.
The local and your access to what you can see is limited based on how near you are to other neighborhoods. But it's a national site, and while I have it in California, my sister reads it in New Jersey, and it's very local information to her.
It is very local, yep.
So right now it's about everything being closed because of COVID, but it's often about seeing coyotes and hearing owls in the middle of the night and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or complaints about traffic cameras.
Yeah, or some old timer wanders away from the house and they're lost, or somebody's dog is found, or somebody's car got broken into on this street. I get notifications from Nextdoor daily.
It's the type of local news that you don't see in a local newspaper.
Exactly. Yeah. Or there'll be like what do they call them? Porch pirates. People reporting porch pirates and to watch out, or somebody's car was broken into in a certain neighborhood, so be careful, and that sort of thing.
So the web,
it's very local.
Yeah, the web allows you to know things that are going on around the globe and around your block.
It would be one feature that I would like to see is the ability to tie in 2 different areas. Like, for instance, when my mom was living up in Northern California, it would be nice for me to be able to watch my area and also monitor hers. But you can't. You gotta create a whole new separate account. And
could you do it in your mom's name and just log in as your mom?
I would have to establish a separate account in her name, but when I'm in one account, I can't see the other.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, right. So you could do it.
You get email notifications,
geographically specific areas other than your own neighborhood.
Yeah, I guess it's probably zip code driven, I would imagine.
I think so, because I know when I started, because I live in a community, the community has a Nextdoor thing. And then, soon thereafter, Nextdoor sent me a thing. Would you like to add other local communities to your notifications?
So
I never got that.
It's smaller than zip code, because I have a friend who's in this town too. She's got the same zip code as me. She doesn't see all the same neighborhoods I do.
Huh.
I don't see all the same neighborhoods she does.
Even though you're both in Carlsbad.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're
So it
about
must be zip code.
5 miles from each other.
Well, Carlsbad's pretty dense and it does go inland.
Yeah, I see some people from Encinitas neighborhoods too, though.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's kind of a stretch, yeah.
Well, like an Oceanside goes way east and you're still in Oceanside.
So how far are they along with opening things up there, Bill, where you're at?
They're going to do some more opening on Friday. It's going to be curbside service only. They're going to open music stores, sporting goods, clothing, florists.
Some retail stores then, eh?
Yeah, some retail. They're going to try to help those businesses from going out of business.
Yeah.
Doc and I were talking about this a little bit before the show started, and we had a question about whether or not they have sufficient websites to enable people to order through the website and receive something curbside.
Oh, and then do the pickup. Yeah.
I know some grocery stores have that capability.
I've said that for a long time, that anybody who has a brick and mortar and a website should allow people to pick stuff up at the store, because that way you're also getting them into your brick and mortar, and they're being saving you the cost of delivering it and getting a better relationship with the customer when they come into the store.
And my niece had a baby, and she had a baby shower and did a baby registry on Babies R Us. And you could go to the website and pick things out from the registry that you might want to get, and go to the store, and they would give you a list of the things you picked out and where they're located in the store. Which was
where they're located in the store. Wow.
Yeah, it's a wish list. Your sister goes there, pick what she wants in the store. Then she says, go here, ask for this wish list. Here's the password. And it's a good one. I did that we had it on a instrument store when I designed the cart. That was
you could decide which things from the wish list you wanted to see before you went to the store. So you didn't get the whole wish list. You only get the things you picked out.
Yeah.
And they had the exact places in the store marked out. So you could go directly to them.
I also found that it cut down on the empty carts or discarded carts, because people put it on the wish list, because then they could more easily manage it.
Yeah.
Especially with bands, and they're buying like a PA system and everything.
Well, sometimes people want to see the actual items in person.
Yeah.
Pictures of them on a website.
I believe that at the beginning, that was part of it. A lot of people still go on the internet, see the prices, right? And then go to the store, make a final decision in the store. Yeah. Is this a product I want? They already know it's the cheapest price they can get, so they don't have to look around anymore.
There are a lot of stores that are going out of business that if they adopted some changes like that, wouldn't be.
Oh, that's why any store, brick or mortar, whatever, you should have some presence on the internet. And you know, one way people are doing it, I read something the other day. There's and probably half of them are spammers, but there's tens of thousands of those Google websites. The number that's coming to my mind is over 900,000.
You mean the Google website?
And that's a good way for a small brick and mortar company with not a lot of products to get a presence.
You mean the Google websites that come with Google My Business?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the merchant accounts where you submit product feeds of all your products.
Yeah, you could do a product feed. You could do all kinds of stuff. It's almost like having a website without paying a designer, you know. millions of dollars or what they pay us. Instead, they go to Google and use all their tools to cobble together something.
So Google's been touting that as a way for small businesses to get around some of the issues they're having with the pandemic.
Well, not just the pandemic. They should have been doing it before, Bill. We all know that, a lot. You at least get an email address. Like I couldn't believe it. A few years back, I was doing work for a client, and I started calling these small printer repair companies in Canada. Christ, some of them didn't even have an email address.
Oh, when was that?
That was not that long ago, Zara. I was freaked. I couldn't believe it. But I've never paid much attention to the Canadian market. That's part of the reason why is the businesses aren't quick to get on the bandwagon. This actually gave me an idea. That and partially what you were talking about, people doing their own SEO. Like on a simple site like that, they could probably do it. I don't know, would a directory take a site on Google?
I don't know.
Can you own a domain name and put it on Google website? I should look into that.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I've never really looked at them sort of.
That's I'm going to look at that a little.
You mean like a merchant product feed? Can a directory type site
Yeah.
submit one of those based upon having
Like if you had a Google website, could you say submit it to a directory?
if you ran a directory site that was a number of merchants?
No, just go to say any directory and submit your website on Google.
Your Google website.
Yeah.
Because it's the website address.
I wonder if you can put a URL, like if you bought a domain, you could put it on that.
Oh, can you? If you have your own domain, can you?
You might have to redirect it because I
Yeah,
can't
you have to redirect
see
it.
Google giving that ability up. Possibly, but it
It's your Google.
seems like the kind of thing they'd be resistant to.
I had that on Tumblr.
You can 301 it,
Yeah, for a while, terryvanhorn.com was on Tumblr.
Yeah.
And it was like a Tumblr account, and somehow they were doing something inside to use my regular URL.
Hmm.
But I'm going to look into that a little bit more and then start calling businesses.
That's really
Maybe
interesting.
I found my new calling.
It's
you could.
possible there's some business models that haven't been used that would make sense to start using now.
I think that one is one, like when people made fun of businesses that go on Wix and places like that, I don't make fun of them because that's someone who's at least making an effort with their business. Just because they can't afford you, you shouldn't make fun of a businessman who's, making an effort. Like they're the kind of people I like to help, actually, for nothing.
Right,
I
exactly.
like to help them too. I like to help them get the hell off of Wix.
That's what I mean.
That's true, but I agree with Terry that at least they're making an effort to have an online presence, and they at least understand the first step, Doc, because now, and if they're on Wix for any length of time, they're going to discover the ick, but at the beginning, it was like a solution. It was a simple solution for creating an online presence for their business. And that means they just need more education.
Well, we still
But Wix also does some of the traffic driving for you as well. So they're buying the PPC, they're doing that kind of stuff to drive traffic.
Well, to switch slightly from Wix to WordPress, we started working with a client a couple of years ago who had just built 8 brick and mortar sites. and they decided they wanted to start using their website more too. So we started doing SEO for the website for them, and soon the website was outselling all the brick and mortar places they had. I mean,
Oh, I'm not saying it's the best, Bill. I'm just saying I would rather see a business on Wix than on nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Just to go back to what you mentioned earlier, Terry, about Canada and not having an email address and all that sort of thing. I know I have a couple of friends in France who say the same thing about people in France. They're just not aware of how an online presence can help.
not disagree. It's not aware. It's not a point of not being aware. It's a point of not understanding it. Some people like Buffett, right?
yeah.
Mhm.
Warren Buffett won't buy a stock he doesn't understand. So some people treat their money like that too. Business people in Canada are very risk averse.
Okay.
Very risk averse, like the exact opposite of American almost.
Okay.
There was a store in a town I lived in Delaware that was a Scottish specialty store, Scottish Highlands. And they
Okay.
sold a bunch of different Scottish traditional clothing and decorations and things like that. They were on the main street of the town. They were paying very expensive rent. They finally decided it would be a good idea to build a website. They built it, and they were getting so many sales through the website that they closed down the place on Main Street because the rent was too high.
Yep, didn't see the need for it once they realized they could sell more on the internet with less work. Do it when you want to. Don't have to worry about a store rent. Or I think there'll be a lot of people that business models are going to change as a result of this. Like, that's a given. Like, the one thing is, though, if I owned a restaurant, I'd be closing her up. Like, it won't work. Just won't work.
I think it would have to be pretty specialty. Okay, some place like Medieval Times, they can probably find a way to survive. Some place that high-end restaurant for anniversaries and wedding receptions, that sort of thing. Yeah, they could probably find a way to survive. But your average Denny's and stuff like that, they're just not going to make it because there's no draw to it. I could go hit the curbside and take it home and enjoy it at my leisure.
But here's the thing, Doc. Medieval Times, like, they can only do one show.
Yeah.
Right? Well, even if they're full, they've got half as many people there. Right? Social distancing. Going to cut down the number of people that you can put in a restaurant by half. Okay?
Yeah, I would think it after the social distancing is lifted, when we get into this new normal.
You know when that's going to happen?
Maybe
Sometime, maybe this time next year. That's my personal thing. Like, they aren't even opening stuff here in Ontario yet.
Soonest. Sometime
They're opening up garden centers, and you can't even go into the place.
Right.
You can only go to the curb. But, the difference is, country's not willing to watch 100,000 people fucking die because business may go out of business. Just not going to happen here.
So the
people wouldn't allow it.
Social distancing may not be lifted until after there's a vaccine.
True. But you don't. Okay. I'm just saying what I see on the news scares me. And it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
When Trump says there could be 100,000 deaths.
That may be what gets people comfortable enough to go into a movie theater or to go out to a restaurant.
Or get on an airplane.
Yeah.
They can be open, but no one's going to go.
Or ride an elevator.
Like, I wouldn't go before. I wouldn't sit on a bus or anything like that because I just too confining. Like, that's why I don't go out. Just too paranoid. Like, too many bad things can happen. Especially in a
Somebody
big
can
city.
recognize you, Terry.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, it's always unnerving when some cop is looking at you, looking at his notebook, looking at you, looking at his notebook.
Oh, I never that problem. More just people I know in certain parts. That's all.
Yeah, I know. I'm giving you a hard time. But you're right. It's going to dramatically change an awful lot of how business is done. And I think it's long overdue that an awful lot more businesses need to consider things like, obviously having a web presence, but also remote workers. I think that's also going to be a lot more popular.
It's going to have drastic changes in a lot of places, like sports, education.
Once the thing gets lifted, it won't affect sports at all.
I don't know. Climbing into
They
a
get
stadium.
most of their money from television contracts, Doc.
Well, that's
right?
fine.
It dwarfs the money they get for having people in the rink, so they'll have the games.
Because I wouldn't pay
stadiums.
I wouldn't pay $270 to go watch a baseball game before. I sure as hell ain't going to do it with 60,000 other people who may or may not be.
Oh yeah, you won't get that many people. Like we're still at 5. No group bigger than 5. Here.
Right.
I think California's at 10, isn't it?
We're
10.
10 in
No,
California.
larger than 10.
Tiny.
And down here, they didn't even set a head limit. They simply said, if you're not going to the doctor or the hospital or the grocery store, don't be going anywhere.
Don't be going. Do they have any kind of monitoring of that?
They brought the military in, and they patrol the streets in their vehicles, but I have seen or heard no instances of them actually. Beyond the first and second day, they had some traffic checkpoints set up. When people are trying to go someplace, they'd ask every third car, where are you going and why, and say, no, go back. But they haven't even been doing that. So it's
in some areas around Carlsbad, you can hear helicopters flying around, and they're monitoring things like shopping centers,
beaches,
where beaches, places where kids would use to hang out. I guess they may be back to the beaches now. Beaches were closed down for a while around here, so they reopened them Monday.
Yep.
So you're not supposed to sit on a blanket on the beach or a towel.
I've been pleasantly surprised because down here I'm seeing what 2 weeks ago it was like nobody was even aware that there was anything going on, and there was no attention whatsoever paid to separation or masks or anything. And now it's rare that I see somebody out without a mask.
Yeah.
And I don't see, even when I see people crossing, passing each other on the sidewalk, they're giving each other a wide berth. They're crossing the street. They're not. The stores are. The only store I'm aware of, because I haven't been out in a month and a half, is the one across the street, a little like a 7-Eleven type convenience store.
Mm-hmm.
Their business, they're doing in a week what they used to do on a Friday night. It's all generally almost empty parking lot all the time, and people get out with their masks. They go inside, they come right back out. But I haven't seen anybody doing any curbside. The places that are totally gone is the sidewalk taco stands.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go eat from something that some guy that hasn't been able to wash his hands since 4:00 this morning. You bet.
Not going to happen, huh?
But it has improved dramatically down here. There's a lot more awareness and paying attention to the separation and the mask, which is encouraging.
Yeah, I think some of the main streets here, Young Street, right, Doc?
Yeah.
They'll probably have to cut the traffic off because they're On a good day, you're almost shoulder to shoulder walking up and down the street with everyone. So they're going to have to take the traffic out. And because people will have to line up to get into stores and stuff. So they'll probably do stuff like that. I saw something on TV today where they're doing that in Europe and a few cities in the U.S. Oh, and Vancouver here in Canada.
Vancouver did?
They're
Oh, I get
closing
that.
streets in San Diego to traffic so that people can walk on them.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Vancouver already had a lot of that. Like when I was there in the 70s, when I went back in the 80s, some of the main streets were just through walking streets now. There's no cars on them.
Pedestrian streets.
Yeah, pedestrian basically, yeah.
So that's more prevalent in Europe than it is in the United States. But
Yes, it is.
A lot of that.
Yeah.
I saw
I
the
think
news
they just
yesterday.
wanted an excuse to tear all the old buildings down, probably.
I saw the news yesterday that LA school district said that the school year, I think it's something like October or August 18th, the new school year is starting. So I jumped in there. I said, "Good, you got to be kidding!" Well, but they're not going to be back in schools. It's just going to be home study still. So the school year is going to start as opposed to being postponed, but it's still going to be at home.
Yeah, a lot of that they're canceling here. For young kids, they're saying they're having a lot of trouble learning on computer.
Well, the teaching is not is not easy.
At that age, it's more about social, right?
Well, kids. I've never liked homeschooling from the
For
notion
that
that
reason,
kids
that
need a socialization.
They need
Yeah.
the socialization.
Girlfriends or
you're raising a
baseball buddies.
potential loner,
Yeah,
future gunman.
that's important.
Preschool and kindergarten are organized play sessions so that kids learn how to interact with other kids. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of public school, that's what it is.
Oh, sure.
And to give you the tools to go to high school. But, some people never get by the public school.
I was just talking to my daughter-in-law right before we started, and she was telling me how my granddaughter, a friend of hers, came over to bring her a little gift, and that the kids, so they're 8, the kids are totally aware of social distancing. So they just got a new chicken coop, and the chickens are inside. It's a big event, and she asked her friend if she wanted to come and see the chicken coop, and they went out in the backyard, and the kids were like always apart. They were both just totally aware of being apart, and if one child moved, then the other one would back up, so they would keep their distance. And my granddaughter said, "Would you like a flower?" And she picked a flower, and then she kind of put it on the ground between the two of them, and then backed up so her friend could pick up the flower. So we were talking earlier about how kids are going to respond to this later on in life, but that these kids are little. They're like 8. They aren't teenagers or anything, and they're just so tuned into what is happening now. It's and then my son and my granddaughter picked me up at the auto mechanics yesterday, and I got in the car, and my granddaughter went like this, like signing a hug, because no hugging is just horrible. And but these little kids seem in many ways to be dealing with this very well. I'm not sure about younger little people.
I remember growing up hearing about things like the Great Depression, not having any idea what it was like. Now I have a much better idea.
Oh, not yet. You don't, but you will.
Yeah, it's coming, Bill.
It's coming, buddy.
I was talking to my father, and I didn't realize it, but he was born in 1930.
Yeah.
Well, he's
Yeah,
a
right.
dirt farmer.
Right
When
in the
I
middle of
asked him about the Spanish flu, he kind of acted like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Now, my folks were born in 23, so they were
Yeah.
still little kids, but it was bad.
My father,
Yeah, the depression was bad. My mom was born in 1918, and so she, lived the depression, not even really as a kid,
I mean,
So-
they were very different times back then. My father was telling us how when he was 5 years old, he would go to the neighborhood bar and pick up a bucket of beer for his father.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the buckets were called growlers.
Yep.
And he was
My
telling us
daddy did the same.
we didn't believe him.
And I got a good one for you. In 1930, my maternal grandfather
Yeah.
in 1930 was shot and killed along with two of his friends trying to rob a bank. He was a teacher.
Yeah.
Whoa. Oh, I see. Oh, because there was no
But-
money.
There was no money, and his family was hungry, and so he got in with two guys, and they tried to rob a bank, and all three of them got shot.
Whoa.
It was, it was not a good time. I got a lot of old photographs. My mom's family took a lot of pictures, and I've got some old, the tintypes and the daguerreotypes, and so going back to the 1800s. But a lot of stuff from the Depression, it was rough.
It was really rough. My grandfather died of the flu. So my mom never knew him. I have to tell you this adorable story about my grandmother who was married to the man. We had found all these photographs of her with her husband, my grandfather, after they got married, and they were like rowing on rivers, camping, flying airplanes, traveling in cars, doing all this stuff. And when he died, she never remarried. And she could never find anybody to match him, because she did things together.
That sounds a lot more romantic than saying that she didn't want to have to train another one, Housebreaking is such a chore.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know, but my grandmother was an amazing human being. She was probably one of the most non-judgmental people I have ever known, and she welcomed anyone until they exhibited some kind of bad behavior, but they hardly ever did, and she ran she had a gas station, and she ran that gas station until she was 83 years old. And just down the road from you, Bill, on Encinitas on 101. And when she was older, the last few years, people would come in and they go, "Hi, Annie," and they pump their own gas and wash the windshield and do whatever they needed to do, and then, pay her and leave. And the reason they went there was because she didn't give anybody any trouble. Like if you were a surfer or any of those things, so, Southern California was very divided about it. It's a very conservative place. So surfers and all that.
Have you been to the Cultural Heritage Museum in Encinitas?
Uh-huh.
So they've got some stuff in there that maybe was from like the 1920s or so, from Encinitas area, that show you what that was like living around here at that time.
Well,
So
I know when I went to live there in 2004, and
Yeah.
I told people when I was growing up, that nobody lived east of the railroad tracks. It was too far inland. And they
Yeah.
all looked at me like I was crazy, but it was true. Those were beach towns, Carlsbad, Encinitas, and Cardiff by the Sea. They were beach towns. So why would you be inland? So yeah, it's very changed. And when I was little, surfers were, they were like beach bums. They lived on the beach.
Beatniks.
They were before beatniks even.
Yeah, they were in the same social class as beatniks.
But they were in the same social class as beatniks who came along a little bit later. Yeah, they were. It was like, too weird.
Yeah. If you remember the first, I can't remember which the name of it was, but the first surfer movie that came out of Hollywood was very controversial. Partially because they actually had girls in two-piece bathing suits.
Right.
And I mean, the bottom half of their bathing suits, hell, both halves had more cloth in it than any four bathing suits these days. They had an inch and a half of belly you can see between the top and the bottom.
Right.
But that was only part of the problem. It was because of the surfer. This was a counterculture, that it created so much controversy that the director wasn't even able to work again in Hollywood for about 3 years.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Because he convinced everybody, and the producers, that it's not that big a deal. Nobody's going to get upset over this. They'll enjoy it. And it raised the roof on controversy. He couldn't work for 3 years.
Wow.
And then somebody else came along and did another one with just slightly skimpier bathing suits, and it was a big box office hit. They said, "Okay, we found the secret now. We know what's going to make this sell. Sex sells, And all of a sudden, surfer movies were coming out, a dime a dozen.
Oh no,
I wish I remember which one that was. I had heard of the director before, but he only did like 4 or 5 movies that had any renown at all. But I can't remember the name of that particular one, and it was a absolutely terrible movie. I mean, it was all kids on the beach and very little real footage. It was absolutely terrible production.
We don't need a storyline. We don't need acting.
Yeah, you got bathing
what I
suits.
thought was funny was that Hollywood sort of cleaned up surfers, or they presented them as clean cut, outdoorsy types.
Yeah.
And when I was little, surfers had long hair. This was like way before the 60s.
Oh, yeah.
Way before. These people were out there on the outer fringe of life, because they had long hair. They loped along the beaches, and they literally lived on the beach, and they were social outcasts, and the community did not perceive them as one of us.
Well, and
You
also
can go
they
to
were
the
not.
beach and enjoy the beach, but you will stay away from the surfers.
And the other thing is that initially they weren't the youth.
No, they weren't the youth.
These were they were in their mid-20s and early 30s, and they were bums. Okay.
Yeah, they were beach bums. They were bums who lived on the beach. Yep.
And that's where the surfer movies started to get more popular, when they started being clean cut high school kids, and
Yep.
Boondoggy.
Yep. So Hollywood did a number on the surfing culture, because it wasn't
I remember I was growing up. One year there was a TV series called the San Pedro Beach Bums.
Oh, really?
It didn't do real well, but it was kind of fun.
Well, from San Pedro, I mean, there ain't a whole lot of beach to brag about at San Pedro.
Oh, that's funny. The San Pedro Beach Bum. I missed that one, Bill. Yeah, where is the beach in San Pedro?
I don't know. I've never heard of San Pedro.
I don't think there is any, sir.
I don't think there is
Not
either.
anymore. It's all pretty much shipyard.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Is there coastline in San Pedro?
Yeah, but it's shipyards. It's big.
There are some fishing boat piers, fishing charters.
Yeah.
And then there's a shipyard, and there's some boat repair, marina repair shops.
Yeah,
I don't think there's even any marina in San Pedro anymore. I think it's all.
It lasted one season, and that was it.
And that was probably a half a season too long.
I don't think there's much action in that one either.
Oh, that's terrible. I missed that one. Well, we didn't have a TV when I was little, so. Totally missed that. I've been reading Don Winslow, and he has a series of books about the surfing community north of San Diego, and they're pretty interesting.
I think I saw one of those.
The name sounds familiar.
Well, he more recently has written books about the drug cartel. I think one's called The Drug Cartel, another's called The Border. There's 3 of them, and I've forgotten the title of the other one. Those are, my gosh, they're so incredibly researched about the drug trade in Mexico.
But he did a lot of research about the surf community, right?
Yeah, he did too, because he's originally from the East Coast, and he came out to Southern California for some event or something and went, I want to live here, and then ended up living in San Diego. So yeah, he didn't grow up with it. He researched. He's a very strong writer. Okay, guys, I have to leave. It's I have to go get my car, and my ride is coming.
Well, it's the top of the hour. We're just a couple minutes shy. So
Yeah.
we're shut down here too.
All right.
So,
Thanks. All right. Take care,
See
everyone.
you later, Sarah.
you too. Bye now. So Terry, are they doing some reopening near you sometime soon? Businesses?
They aren't being real open about what they're going to do. That's the way they kind of do it. I kind of agree with it.
Yeah.
Like right now, we're the second highest in Canada.
So
Like
the-
there are parts like where I'm from, right?
Yeah.
Is southwestern Ontario. Well, they're farming communities. There's not a lot going on there. I think in the city I was born in, there was only a couple of cases.
We've had 50 cases in the city I'm in now.
Yeah, that's not bad then.
Yeah.
Considering there's other parts where it's pretty high.
Yeah.
I guess LA is probably the worst.
LA is probably pretty bad, but they've had nursing homes that had more cases than my town has.
That's the way it is here. 80% is nursing homes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the worst too. Like here, they they won't even allow you to go and see your parent. Like if my my mother and father closer to 90 than they are to 80, if you know what I mean.
LA just passed or just told everybody that COVID testing for everybody in LA County is free. The county's covering it.
Oh, right. You're in that country, so people have to pay for that stuff. That's the other thing. Like, on top of losing some of your wages, right?
Yeah.
If you do get it and get put in the hospital, you're probably looking at what, 4,000, 5,000?
Oh shit, a day.
Oh, really?
Oh fuck.
Oh, fuck.
If they put
See?
you in ICU, you're looking at 10 grand a day in ICU. Okay.
Oh,
minimum.
really?
Fuck yeah,
See?
you're talking $185 for a fucking aspirin on an itemized bill. Believe that shit?
Yeah. If
I'm
it
not
were
kidding.
me,
I'm not kidding. $185 for a fucking aspirin that wasn't even taken. It was brought to you, so here's the bill.
that's what I mean. Sorry, but that system there makes no fucking sense to me whatsoever.
Medicine down here in the States is.
Well, it starts with the whole fucking system is built to not work. It's built on fucking greed and nothing short of fucking greed.
Well, it sure as hell ain't built on healthcare.
Starts at the fucking schools. Excuse my language, but
It's built on making the pharmaceutical companies profits.
Exactly.
In medical school,
Partially,
you don't necessarily
but-
learn how to cure people as much as you learn about the medicine.
if you want a system like they have in Canada and the UK, you know what you have to sacrifice? A doctor can't expect to be a fucking millionaire. That's what you gotta. That has to change before you can do it. Right? They gotta do it because they doing it because they like it, it means more to them, right?
Yeah.
Like, just that's where it starts. And it also doesn't cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to school.
I got a friend who is a surgeon in Bonita, which is in San Diego. Okay.
Yeah.
His monthly malpractice insurance alone, just his malpractice, is $3,500 a fucking month. Okay. So doctors don't necessarily turn out to be millionaires. I mean, they're paying through the nose to be a doctor. He has to pay almost $11,000 a month just to be on the roster at a Kaiser Permanente hospital, just to be listed as one of their attending physicians. Okay, he pays for that right.
Right.
So
that's what I mean. The whole system, like, just
yeah. But then you got the pharmaceuticals that it costs them 0.3 cents to make a fucking capsule, and they wholesale the thing out for $9, and it costs you $47 per capsule. That's bullshit. It's all profit based. Yeah.
I've got at least one prescription that's completely free because it's a generic, and the
that's what
company can't sell it.
Canada is a lot of generic drugs. They're just as good. Like,
yeah, it's the same thing.
I don't buy into anything that says they're not as good. Like,
well, it's not just that. You can buy, for instance, a particular prescription of a Lilly brand name medication from Lilly Labs. Okay.
Yeah.
And it might be a 30-day supply might be $280. You can buy the same thing in generic for $37. And it came from the same fucking Lilly lab with a generic name on it. It came off the same, it may be a different lot, it's a different production run, but it's made the same formula by the same people in the same place with a different label.
Another thing they do is they take those generic drugs and they make them extended release.
Yeah.
Once they do that, they multiply the price by lots of money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's why the drug is now $225.
Yeah. One of the companies that just got into a bunch of crap down there for doing that kind of stuff, buying a drug, increasing. It was a big deal here in Canada. it didn't buy many drugs here in Canada, but it did most of its business in the States.
Mhm.
But a lot of people, I didn't realize it, but I was watching the press conference this morning, and there's people saying that they Americans are allowed to come up here and go fishing and buy fill their prescriptions, but Canadians can't deliver PPE into the United States. That's Trump logic for you right there.
Yeah.
Well, as fucked up as that orange orangutan is, it's not realistic to lay all the blame at his feet. I mean, our whole system is fucked.
Someone voted him in.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, but it was fucked decades before he got there.
Hey, if you're living in Ohio or anywhere in the Rust Belt, and Trump comes and says, look at China, they're the problem. That's what cost you your job. So you're going to vote for that man.
Yep.
And that's how he won the election. That's why there's a good chance he could win again.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Don't be afraid. You know, that's.
I did not think he had a chance of a snowball in hell of winning the first time.
Oh, I learned my lesson about people voting. Like here in Canada, a prime minister was coming up for re-election. He admitted to stealing money, and got re-elected. Stealing from his own constituents. Yeah, I don't know. What does that say about the logic of the people? You know what? There's a lot of people who vote and I say, okay, I got my choice. Liberal, conservative, or NDP. NDP is basically Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, far left.
Okay, so, but they actually win elections here. Yeah, it's real.
Mm-hmm.
You want to see mess up? Oh, man. NDP were in here for one term. It took us 10 years to get back on our feet.
We're after the top of the hour, so I think.
Oh, sorry about that.
Well, I thought you already went off. I thought you'd already.
Yeah, so did I.
Well, thank you all for joining us. Take care. Have a good week. Be careful.
Later, all.